A desperate battle. The emergence of the Empire, the vast emptiness of space, was filled with fire and destruction. The human defense fleet had been ambushed by the ruthless Xelfar Empire, a war-hungry alien race that had conquered countless civilizations. Their fleet was massive, their ships bristling with advanced plasma cannons and energy shields stronger than anything humanity had ever faced. In the middle of the chaos, Captain Elias Voss stood firm on the bridge of the last surviving human battleship, the Resolute. Alarms blared across the control panels, and the red warning lights painted the room in a terrifying glow. The ship was shaking under continuous enemy fire. Hull integrity was dropping fast. Shields were barely holding. Weapons were running low on power. "Captain, the enemy fleet is surrounding us," shouted Lieutenant Harper, his voice filled with urgency. Voss gritted his teeth, his fingers tightening around the metal railing in front of him. The battle had turned into a massacre. One by one, the human ships had been destroyed, their wreckage floating lifelessly in space. "How many ships do we have left?" Voss asked, his voice steady despite the chaos. "None, sir," Harper replied grimly. "We are the last." Voss felt his stomach tighten, but he didn't let the fear show. Retreat was no longer an option. The Xelfar didn't take prisoners. If they were captured, they would be tortured and executed like the thousands of others who had fallen before them. Across the vast view screen, the Xelfar command ship loomed like a monstrous beast, its dark, spiked hull glowing with pulsating red energy. The ship was twice the size of the Resolute and heavily armored. It was a floating fortress of destruction. A cold, robotic voice echoed across the communication channel. It was the voice of Supreme Commander Zolvek, leader of the Xelfar fleet. "Human vessel, your resistance is pointless. Surrender, and your deaths will be swift." Voss clenched his fists. He had heard the stories. No human ship had ever survived a direct encounter with Zolvek. "Surrender is not an option," Voss said, his voice unwavering. "We fight to the last breath." The enemy fleet responded with firepower. Bright streaks of plasma torpedoes ripped through space, striking the Resolute. The ship shuddered violently. Explosions erupted in multiple decks. The bridge lights flickered, and smoke filled the air. "Shields at critical levels," yelled Chief Engineer Patel, his hands racing over the controls. "One more direct hit and we're done." The Xelfar ships moved in, preparing for the final strike. Their weapons began to glow, charging up for the killing blow. Voss knew they had only one chance left. "Prepare the warp drive," he ordered. "But, sir," Harper hesitated, "the jump coordinates are unstable. We don't know where we'll end up. If we stay, we die. If we jump, we might survive," Voss said. "Do it." Patel slammed the control panel, initiating the emergency warp sequence. The ship's engines roared to life, shaking violently as energy surged through its core. Just as the enemy unleashed their final barrage, the Resolute vanished into hyperspace, leaving only a trail of blue light behind. For a brief moment, there was silence. Then, a violent jolt, a blinding flash. The Resolute reappeared in an unknown sector of space, spinning out of control. Sparks flew across the bridge as the ship was thrown into chaos. "Emergency stop," Harper shouted, struggling to stabilize the ship. With a final lurch, the Resolute came to a dead halt, drifting silently in the void. Voss pulled himself up from the floor, breathing heavily. "Status report." Patel coughed, checking the diagnostics. "Engines offline. Weapons offline. Shields gone. We have no power left." A heavy silence filled the bridge. They had escaped death, but at what cost? As the crew tried to recover, a strange energy reading appeared on the scanners. Voss narrowed his eyes at the screen. "What is that?" Harper hesitated. "Sir, I think it's a ship. A very old one." The crew stared at the unknown object floating in the darkness ahead. Little did they know, this discovery would change everything. marooned in the void. The Resolute drifted silently in the darkness of space, its engines dead, its once powerful weapons now nothing more than useless metal. Inside the ship, the crew sat in stunned silence. They had escaped the HFY fleet, but now they faced a different kind of danger, being stranded in the void with no way home. Captain Elias Voss stood in the dimly lit bridge, his hands gripping the console as he studied the situation. The ship's interior was filled with the sound of low-powered alarms and the occasional spark from damaged circuits. The warp jump had saved them, but it had also pushed their systems to the brink of collapse. "Status report," Voss ordered, his voice calm but firm. Lieutenant Harper wiped a streak of sweat from his forehead, his fingers flying across the scanner controls. "Engines are completely offline, sir. Power core is depleted. Life support is holding, but it won't last forever." Chief Engineer Patel groaned as he pushed himself up from the floor, rubbing a bruised shoulder. "Jump drive is fried. We won't be making any more lucky escapes." Voss exhaled slowly. No weapons, no shields, no way to send a distress signal. They were truly alone. Then something unusual caught Harper's attention. "Sir," he said hesitantly, his eyes fixed on the main screen. "I'm picking up something." Voss turned to him. "What is it?" Harper adjusted the scanner frequencies, trying to get a clearer reading. "It's a ship, I think." Patel frowned. "A ship? Out here? That doesn't make sense." Voss narrowed his eyes as the faint outline of a massive structure appeared on the holographic display. It was far in the distance, barely visible in the dark void. The crew leaned forward, staring at the strange object. "It's old," Harper muttered. "Very old." A chill ran through the bridge. There was something eerie about it. A vessel, floating lifelessly in the abyss, its design unlike anything human or HFY. "Could be a trap," Patel murmured. Voss considered the possibility. But they were running out of options. If that ship had working systems, fuel, or supplies, it could be their only hope. "Prepare a recon team," Voss finally said. "We're going aboard." The boarding mission. A few hours later, Voss and a small team suited up in their EVA gear and made their way toward the alien wreckage in a barely functioning shuttle. As they approached, the full scale of the ship became clear. It was enormous, larger than even the HFY command ships. Its dark metal hull was scarred and broken, as if it had seen countless battles. "This thing is ancient," Harper whispered, his voice crackling through the comms. "How long has it been drifting here?" Voss didn't answer. He was too focused on the ship's surface. Strange, unreadable markings covered the hull. Symbols of a forgotten race. "Preparing to dock," Patel announced. The shuttle's small thrusters fired, gently pushing them toward an open breach in the alien hull. With a soft clang, they connected. "All right," Voss said, taking a deep breath. "We're going in." As the hatch opened, a wave of stale, cold air greeted them. The ship's interior was a dark, metal labyrinth, filled with dead consoles, floating debris, and shadows stretching across the walls. Their flashlights flickered as they stepped inside. "This place gives me a bad feeling," Harper muttered. "Stay alert," Voss said. "We don't know what we're walking into." As they moved deeper, something caught Patel's attention. He stopped, staring at a large, circular structure in the center of the room. It pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. "Sir," Patel's voice was barely above a whisper. "I think we just found the power source." Voss stepped closer, feeling the static energy in the air. The ship was dead, but its heart was still beating. And that could mean only one thing: it wasn't truly abandoned. The discovery of an ancient power. The air inside the alien ship was cold and stale, carrying the scent of dust and something metallic. Captain Elias Voss and his team moved carefully through the dimly lit corridors, their flashlights cutting through the thick darkness. The ship was massive, but silent, too silent. The strange circular structure in the center of the room pulsed faintly, like the dying heartbeat of a forgotten beast. It was made of a dark metal, different from anything the humans had seen before. Chief Engineer Patel knelt beside it, running a scanner over the glowing surface. The readings made no sense. "This thing is still active," Patel murmured, adjusting his scanner. "But it's not using any power source I recognize." Lieutenant Harper shifted uncomfortably, his grip tightening on his rifle. "If it's still active, does that mean someone else is here?" Voss didn't answer. He had been in too many battles to ignore his instincts. Something about this ship felt wrong. "Let's move deeper inside," he ordered. "We need to find the control room, see if we can access any data." The Forgotten War. As they explored further, they discovered massive hallways filled with strange markings, symbols of a forgotten language. The ship was old, maybe thousands of years old. Then they found something even more disturbing. A room filled with skeletons, the remains of an unknown species, their bones long turned to dust. They were still seated at control stations, as if they had died in the middle of battle. Harper swallowed hard. Looks like they never had a chance to escape. Patel scanned one of the consoles. "Captain, I think I can access the ship's data logs." "Do it," Voss said. Patel connected his device to the alien interface. For a moment, the ship's dark screens flickered to life, displaying old, fragmented recordings. The images showed a war, massive battles between the HFY and this unknown species. The alien warriors fought bravely, their ships powerful, but they were eventually overwhelmed. Then came the final log, a desperate message from what seemed to be the ship's commander. A warning. The HFY, unstoppable, last of our kind, our greatest weapon, buried within. The screen flickered and died. Silence filled the room. Harper exhaled. That was the last message they ever sent. Voss stared at the dead screens. This wasn't just any ship. It was the last stronghold of an ancient race that had fought the HFY and lost. But one thing stood out. Our greatest weapon, buried within. "What does that mean?" Patel asked. Voss turned toward the glowing power source they had found earlier. "I think we're standing on it. A weapon beyond imagination." Voss led the team back to the pulsing core. He stared at it, knowing they had found something far more dangerous than they expected. Patel ran another scan. His hands trembled as the results appeared. It's not just a power core," he whispered. "It's a weapon." Harper's eyes widened. "A weapon? That thing?" Patel nodded. "Not just any weapon. It's something beyond human technology. It could be what destroyed the HFY fleet back then." Voss narrowed his eyes. If this weapon was powerful enough to challenge the HFY, then it was exactly what humanity needed. But could they control it? Or worse, what if it was never meant to be controlled? Voss made his decision. "We're taking this ship." Harper blinked. "Sir, are you serious? We don't even know if." Voss cut him off. "This might be the only way humanity survives. We don't have a choice." Patel hesitated. "I can try to activate it. But if I do, there's no turning back." Voss took a deep breath. "Do it." Patel pressed the activation sequence. The ship rumbled as the core began to glow brighter, sending energy pulsing through the dead vessel. The walls shook. The engines roared. For the first time in thousands of years, the warship was waking up. The impossible decision. The ship shuddered violently as the ancient core awakened, its energy flowing through the dead vessel like a pulse returning to a lifeless body. Captain Elias Voss and his team braced themselves as the dim corridors flashed with an eerie blue light, illuminating the strange symbols carved into the metal walls. Chief Engineer Patel stared at his scanner in disbelief. "Captain, this ship isn't just powering up. It's rebuilding itself." Voss narrowed his eyes. "Explain." Patel's voice was shaky. "The ship's structure is adapting. Its systems are repairing. This isn't just alien tech. This is something far beyond anything humanity has ever seen. Lieutenant Harper looked around nervously. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Before anyone could answer, the entire ship groaned, as if awakening from a deep slumber. The walls reshaped themselves, broken panels reassembling, flickering screens stabilizing, and shattered corridors sealing up as though the ship were alive. Then, a deep mechanical voice echoed through the ship's speakers. Primary systems. Online. Identifying crew. Error. Unknown species detected. The team froze. "Ugh, Captain," Harper muttered. "I don't think it knows we're friendly." Voss remained calm, stepping forward. "This is Captain Elias Voss of the Human Defense Fleet. We have reactivated this vessel and request control access." A long silence followed. Then, "Access denied. You are not authorized." A sudden surge of energy coursed through the ship, and alarms blared in an unknown language. The entire vessel rumbled, as if reacting to an intruder. "Patil," Voss shouted. "Shut it down before it throws us out an airlock." Patil frantically worked on his tablet, bypassing security protocols. I'm trying. But this system is rewriting itself faster than I can override it." Harper raised his weapon, scanning the corridors. What if this thing has defenses? What if? Before he could finish, the lights suddenly flickered, and a new voice echoed through the ship. "Override accepted. New command recognized. Humanity." The alarm stopped. The rumbling ceased. The ship calmed. Patil blinked. "Ugh, what just happened?" Voss exhaled slowly. "I think it just accepted us as its new crew. A dangerous choice." The control room lit up as screens displayed vast amounts of alien data. Tactical maps, star charts, and weapons diagnostics filled the air with glowing holograms. Harper leaned in. "Sir, this ship has weapons I can't even begin to describe." Patil scrolled through the data. "And the power core, it's practically limitless. If we could integrate this into the Resolute, we'd have the most dangerous warship in human history." Voss stared at the data, realizing the full weight of their discovery. This was more than just a ship. This was a superweapon, and now it belonged to them. The debate. Back aboard the Resolute, the crew gathered for an emergency meeting. The ancient ship, now referred to as the Revenant, was operational, but not fully functional. The decision was clear. They could leave it and send a distress signal, hoping the HFY wouldn't find them first. Or they could fuse the Resolute with the Revenant, creating the deadliest ship in the galaxy. Commander Darius Cole, their tactical officer, frowned. "Sir, this is alien tech. We don't know how to control it. If something goes wrong, we could all die." Harper nodded. "And if the HFY realize we have this ship, they'll come at us with everything they've got." Patil, however, shook his head. "With all due respect, we're already dead if we do nothing. This ship is a gift. A second chance. If we integrate its technology, we can not only escape, we can fight back." The room fell silent. Voss stood at the center, his face unreadable. He knew what this meant. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about vengeance. This was about making the HFY pay. His voice was steady as he spoke. "We rebuild," he said. "We take what we've been given and turn it into something the HFY will never forget." Harper sighed but nodded. "Then let's get to work." Patil grinned. "Now this is gonna be interesting." The decision was made. Humanity's deadliest warship was about to be born. The birth of a monster. The once crippled Resolute was now being torn apart, not in destruction, but in rebirth. The crew worked tirelessly, stripping away its damaged hull, integrating the alien technology from the Revenant, and forging something entirely new. The shipyard was space itself. The tools were whatever scrap and scavenged materials they could find. The process was dangerous, unstable, and exhausting. But failure was not an option. Rebuilding the beast. Chief Engineer Patel stood on an elevated platform inside the Revenant's engineering bay, directing his team. The fusion of human and alien technology was a nightmare. The energy cores don't match. One of the engineers shouted, sparks flying from a console. If we try to merge the systems without stabilizing the conduits, the whole thing could detonate. Patel wiped sweat from his forehead. Then we stabilize it. We didn't come this far just to blow ourselves up. They were working with technology thousands of years beyond human understanding. The Revenant systems were nearly sentient, constantly shifting and adapting. It was as if the ship was alive. But humans were nothing if not adaptable. Every failure taught them something new. Every setback pushed them to innovate, improvise, and survive. A ship like no other. Meanwhile, Captain Elias Voss oversaw the weapon integration. The Revenant's firepower was beyond anything humanity had ever possessed. Harper stood beside him, looking over the tactical displays. "Sir, these weapons, they don't fire like human weapons." "How so?" Voss asked. Harper pointed to the readings. "They don't just destroy targets. They consume them, disintegrating matter on impact. It's like the energy itself is alive." Voss considered the implications. "Then we need to make sure we control it, not the other way around." The first test. After weeks of tireless work, the hybrid warship was nearly complete. The Resolute was gone, replaced by something far greater. The Revenant had been reborn. But one question remained. Did it work? "We need to test the systems," Patil announced. "Engines first." The entire crew held their breath as the main thrusters roared to life. The ship trembled, but held together. "Engines stable," Patil confirmed, grinning. "Dan, she's got power." "Shields next," Voss ordered. Harper activated the alien shielding system. A strange blue energy field rippled across the ship's surface, unlike any human shield technology. "Shield integrity at 400% of standard military grade," Harper whispered in disbelief. Voss allowed himself a rare smirk. Now the weapons. A nearby asteroid was selected as the first target. The Revenant's weapons locked on. "Fire," Voss commanded. A dark, pulsing energy beam shot out, striking the asteroid. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the asteroid collapsed inward, breaking apart at the molecular level before vanishing into nothing. The bridge went silent. Harper gulped. I think we just erased that rock from existence." Patil whistled. "This isn't a warship. It's a Dan doomsday weapon." Voss folded his arms. "Then let's make sure that HFY are the first to witness it. Humanity's new nightmare." As the crew completed the final adjustments, the Revenant was no longer just a ship. It was a message. To the HFY, who had massacred millions of humans. To the galaxy, which had always seen humanity as weak. To the universe itself, that humanity does not die quietly. Voss stood before his crew, his voice steady and commanding. "This ship is the first of its kind. It will not run. It will not hide. We are no longer prey." He turned toward the stars, his eyes burning with vengeance. "We are hunters now." The Revenant's engines roared to life. Their first target, the HFY fleet. The first test in battle. The Revenant drifted silently through the void, its new form an unholy fusion of human resilience and alien destruction. Its hull gleamed in the darkness, blackened metal reforged with unknown alloys, its weapons humming with a power beyond anything the crew had ever wielded. On the bridge, Captain Elias Voss stood at the command console, watching the tactical display. The test was coming. The HFY scout fleet. "Contact," Lieutenant Harper announced. 4 HFY vessels, approaching from the starboard side. "They haven't detected us yet." Voss studied the readings. These were scout-class destroyers, fast and lightly armored but deadly in numbers. "They must have picked up traces of the energy surge from our systems test," Patil murmured. "They're investigating." Harper shifted uneasily. If they report back, the HFY will send a full fleet. Voss nodded. Then they don't leave here alive. The bridge fell silent. This was it. Their first real fight with the Revenant. No reinforcements, no backup. Only the deadliest ship in the galaxy, and a crew ready for vengeance. The ambush. The Revenant remained motionless, its dark hull blending with the void. The HFY ships moved closer, scanning the area, unaware of the predator lurking in the shadows. Harper's voice was low. They're in range. Voss didn't hesitate. Fire. A weapon unlike any other. The ship shuddered as the Revenant's main cannon activated. A dark, swirling mass of energy erupted from the hull, moving like a living thing. It didn't just hit the lead HFY destroyer. It consumed it. The moment the energy beam struck, the enemy ship began to unravel. Metal twisted and crumbled, breaking apart as if the ship itself was being erased from reality. Then, nothing. No explosion. No debris. The HFY destroyer was simply gone. The remaining 3 enemy ships panicked. They immediately broke formation, realizing too late that they had walked into a death trap. Second target locked, Harper reported. They're trying to escape. Not today, Voss said coldly. The Revenant's secondary weapons flared to life. A barrage of plasma lances, guided by alien targeting systems, streaked across space with inhuman accuracy. The second ship was hit before it could even turn its thrusters. Its hull melted like wax, molten metal spilling into the void before its core detonated. The third and fourth ships opened fire in desperation. Bright blue energy bolts slammed into the Revenant, but the ship didn't even flinch. The shields absorbed the impact without a single power fluctuation. Harper exhaled. Sir, their weapons do nothing to us. A slow grin spread across Voss's face. Good. He raised his hand. Finish them. The Revenant's side cannons unleashed a storm of destruction. The third HFY ship was torn apart in seconds, its remains scattered like dust. The fourth ship tried to warp away, its engines glowing as it attempted an emergency jump. But the Revenant was faster. A final precise energy blast struck the escaping ship mid-jump. The warp bubble collapsed violently, tearing the HFY destroyer in half. Then silence. The battlefield was empty. 4 enemy ships. 4 instant kills. Harper stared at the tactical display in awe. That was absolute slaughter. Patel let out a low whistle. We're flying a damn superweapon. Voss didn't look away from the screen. This was just a test. His voice was cold, unshaken. The real war was about to begin. The HFY no. A few minutes later, Harper stiffened at his station. Captain, we have a problem. Voss turned. What is it? Harper's face was pale. We intercepted a transmission. He swallowed. Before we took them out, one of the HFY ships got a distress signal out. The bridge fell silent. Voss's jaw tightened. How many ships are coming? Harper hesitated. Then he slowly turned to face his captain. All of them. The hunt begins. The bridge of the Revenant was silent, yet thick with tension. The news had sunk in. The HFY now knew. Killing the scout fleet had only bought them moments of peace. Now an armada was coming. Captain Elias Voss stood at the command console, his hands gripping the edges. His eyes were locked onto the tactical display, a massive fleet signature moving toward their position. Lieutenant Harper broke the silence. Sir, scans confirm at least 30 HFY warships, heavy cruisers, battle destroyers, and at least 1 dreadnought-class capital ship. Chief Engineer Patel exhaled sharply. They're throwing everything at us. Harper's voice was tight. There's no way we can take on that many. A grim smile touched Voss's lips. That depends on how we fight. The HFY's fatal mistake. The Revenant was fast. Faster than the HFY expected. Instead of running, Voss made a decision that no human captain would have ever dared before. "We don't wait for them to come to us," he said. "We strike first." Harper blinked. "Sir, you want us to attack the fleet?" Voss nodded. "They think they're hunting us. They have no idea that they're the prey." Patel grinned. "I like it." The plan was set. The Revenant would hit hard, fast, and disappear before the HFY could react. Guerrilla warfare. In space. The first strike. The Revenant moved like a ghost through the void, its hull absorbing light, making it nearly invisible to enemy sensors. As the first wave of HFY warships approached, they had no idea death was already upon them. Voss gave the order. "Fire." A pulse of dark energy surged from the ship's main cannon, ripping through space itself. The first HFY cruiser never had a chance. The weapon hit, and the entire ship imploded in on itself, collapsing like it had never existed. The second target was struck by the Revenant's plasma lances, a dozen precision strikes that melted through shields and tore through its engines. It drifted helplessly as a secondary blast from the Revenant reduced it to dust. The HFY fleet panicked. They had never faced anything like this. By the time their commanders realized what was happening, the Revenant had already disappeared into the darkness again. The HFY's counterattack. The HFY dreadnought took command, sending out dozens of long-range energy pulses, sweeping the battlefield, trying to detect the invisible ship. For the first time in history, the HFY were afraid. Voss watched their desperate response with cold satisfaction. "They're blind," Harper whispered. "They're weak," Voss corrected. "Now we cripple them." Patel loaded up a new attack sequence. "I suggest we take out their command ship next. Cut the head off the beast." Voss considered it, then shook his head. "Not yet. We let them suffer first." The Predator's game. For hours, the Revenant hunted the HFY fleet, picking off ships one by one. They would strike, destroy, and vanish again. The HFY, once so confident, were in chaos. "This is working," Patel said, his voice full of awe. "They don't even know how to fight us." Harper was staring at the screen, shaking his head in disbelief. "Sir, this is the first time in recorded history that a human ship has single-handedly dominated a HFY fleet." Voss nodded, his expression dark. "And it won't be the last." Then, an alarm blared. "Sir," Harper shouted, "the dreadnought. It's charging some kind of superweapon." Voss narrowed his eyes. It seemed the HFY weren't done yet. Revenge unleashed. The HFY dreadnought loomed in the darkness, its colossal frame pulsing with energy. It was their last hope, their final answer to the Revenant's relentless assault. On the bridge, Captain Elias Voss studied the readings. "Harper, report." Harper's voice was tense. "That dreadnought is charging a superweapon. The energy levels are off the charts. If it fires," Patel finished the sentence grimly, "it could wipe us out in one shot." Silence. Voss didn't flinch. He had no intention of letting the HFY get that chance. The last stand of the HFY. The HFY fleet was crippled. Dozens of their ships had already been reduced to wreckage, floating lifelessly in the void. But this dreadnought, this behemoth of destruction, was different. It was their command vessel, their last stand. Its hull was layered with thick armor plating, its shields powered by reactor cores the size of cities. And now, it was about to fire the most powerful weapon in its arsenal. The Revenant had seconds to act. The Revenant's ultimate weapon. "Patel," Voss said, his voice calm but firm. "Do we have enough power for a full energy overload strike?" Patel's fingers flew across the controls. His eyes widened. "Yes. But if we push the Revenant that hard, we could damage the core." Voss's gaze never wavered. "Will it destroy them?" Patel hesitated, then nodded. "Absolutely." Voss turned toward the screen, staring at the massive dreadnought. The HFY wanted to end this fight in one final blow. But they had underestimated humanity. "Charge the weapon," Voss ordered. Harper's hands trembled slightly as he activated the firing sequence. "Weapon charging." "Sir." The Revenant's entire frame vibrated as it gathered energy. Power levels surged. The air crackled. The once dark ship now glowed with a deep, unnatural energy, as if the ancient weapon had finally reached its true potential. The XLFR sensed the danger and fired first. The clash of titans. A blinding column of red energy erupted from the dreadnought, streaking toward the Revenant at near-light speeds. "Impact in 5 seconds," Harper shouted. Voss didn't react. His gaze was locked on his own target. Fire. A supernova in the void. The Revenant's main cannon erupted with a power unlike anything ever seen. The dark energy pulse surged forward, clashing directly with the XLFR's superweapon. For a moment, just a moment, the battlefield was filled with a deafening silence. Then, reality shattered. The two energies collided and exploded, the shockwave tearing through space like a newborn supernova. Zelfar ships were caught in the blast, their hulls cracking and breaking apart. The Revenant's shields buckled, but held. The XLFR dreadnought was not so lucky. Its massive hull splintered, its reactors overloading, flames bursting from every deck. Through the wreckage, the Revenant fired one last devastating blast. The XLFR dreadnought was obliterated. Nothing remained, nothing but silence. Victory, but not the end. The bridge crew sat in stunned silence. Harper let out a slow breath. "They're gone. All of them." Patil leaned against the console. "Holy hell. We did it." The XLFR fleet, the unstoppable force that had terrorized humanity for decades, had been annihilated by a single ship. By them. Voss exhaled slowly. The battle was won. But this was only the beginning. A message to the galaxy. As the wreckage of the XLFR fleet drifted in the void, Voss made a decision. He activated the long-range comms. "Send a transmission to every known system," he ordered. Harper hesitated. "What do you want to say?" Voss's expression was cold, unyielding. "Tell them what happened here." Patil grinned. "And what should we call this little war?" Voss turned toward the stars. The day the hunted became the hunters. The Revenant's engines roared to life once more. Humanity had just declared war. And this time, the galaxy would never forget. Humanity's war cry, the wreckage of the XLFR fleet, drifted lifelessly in space, their once feared warships reduced to scattered debris. The Revenant stood alone amidst the carnage, not just as a survivor, but as the executioner. On the bridge, Captain Elias Voss watched the tactical display. "Transmission sent, sir," Harper reported. "Every major system in the known galaxy now knows what happened here." A silence filled the room. This was more than just a battle. This was a message. The XLFR weren't invincible. Humanity had defied the odds. And now, the real war was about to begin. The Galactic response. As the transmission spread across the galaxy, reactions poured in from every corner of space. The united human colonies, once on the brink of collapse, received the news with a mixture of hope and disbelief. The XLFR had crushed them for decades. Now, a single human ship had wiped out an entire fleet. The neutral species of the galaxy, who had once ignored humanity's suffering, suddenly paid attention. If the XLFR could be beaten, perhaps their reign was not as eternal as everyone had believed. The XLFR Empire itself, normally silent in the face of conquest, responded with fury. Reports of their fleet's annihilation reached their high command, and for the first time in recorded history, they recognized humanity as a true threat. Their response: total war. The Revenant becomes a symbol. Patil leaned back against his console, rubbing his temples. "Sir, do you realize what we've done?" Voss gave him a knowing look. "We've started something that can't be undone." Harper exhaled. "The XLFR won't stop now. They'll send everything they have. Voss's expression remained cold. Then we'll make them regret it. The crew exchanged glances. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was survival. This was war. And the Revenant, it had become more than just a ship. It was a legend, a story that would be told for generations. Humanity's declaration of war. Voss activated the comms again, sending one final message. This time, directly to the HFY High Command. His voice was calm, unshaken. You came to destroy us. You thought we were weak, but now we are the ones hunting you. He leaned closer to the console. This was only the beginning. We are coming for you. The message was sent. For the first time in history, humanity declared war on the HFY. Not as victims, not as prey, but as the monsters in the dark. The future of war. As the Revenant's engines roared to life, the crew prepared for their next mission. The HFY would send reinforcements, and humanity had to be ready. But this time, the war wouldn't be fought on their enemies' terms. This time, humanity was leading the charge. Voss turned to his crew, his voice strong. This is our war cry, and it begins now. The Revenant vanished into the void, heading toward the heart of the HFY Empire, and with it, the end of an empire had begun. The final stand, or a new beginning. The Revenant moved through the dark void of space like a shadow, a silent predator heading straight toward the heart of the HFY Empire. Captain Elias Voss stood on the bridge, staring at the holographic display. Their next target was clear, the HFY's primary command station, a massive orbital fortress known as Vorak Prime. Intel confirms, Harper reported. They're regrouping their fleets there. If we strike now, we cripple their ability to launch a counteroffensive. Patel whistled. Taking out their main war hub. Bold move. Voss nodded. Bold is the only thing that works. The HFY's last line of defense. Vorak Prime was heavily fortified. Dozens of warships guarded the station, forming an unbreakable perimeter. Shielded defense turrets lined its exterior, their firepower enough to vaporize an entire fleet. But the Revenant wasn't an ordinary fleet. We can't take them head-on, Harper muttered. Not all at once. Voss studied the layout, formulating a strategy. The HFY still didn't fully understand what they were dealing with. We hit them from the inside, he said. Patel frowned. Inside? How the hell do we get inside that thing? Voss smirked. By making them let us in. The Trojan horse plan. The Revenant disabled its own energy signature, appearing like a drifting wreck, a damaged human ship, seemingly abandoned. Voss knew how the HFY worked. They were arrogant. They believed humans were weak. They would try to salvage the ship, interrogate any survivors. It took hours, but finally, the trap was sprung. A HFY recovery team latched onto the Revenant, pulling it inside the docking bay of Vorak Prime, and the moment the airlocks connected, the Revenant came alive. The assault begins. Explosions ripped through the docking bay as the Revenant's hidden plasma cannons blasted apart enemy forces. Voss and his crew stormed out in advanced battle armor, weapons in hand. This wasn't just a battle, it was an execution. The HFY, caught off guard, fell like dominoes. Their own arrogance had become their downfall. The Revenant broke free from the docking bay, moving deeper into the station, its weapons carving a path of destruction through the HFY's greatest stronghold. Patel was grinning as he worked on hacking into their mainframe. Sir, I think I can overload their reactor. Harper was still firing his rifle, dropping HFY soldiers left and right. You'd better hurry. Voss gave the order. Blow it. The Empire's fall. The main reactor of Vorak Prime surged violently, power fluctuating across the entire station. The self-destruct sequence was set. HFY commanders panicked, their fleet scrambling to escape. But there was no escape. The Revenant launched one final devastating blast at the station's core. Vorik Prime erupted in a cataclysmic explosion, tearing through the void with a shockwave so powerful it shattered nearby warships. The HFY Empire's main military hub was gone, destroyed by humans. A new beginning. The Revenant drifted through the wreckage, victorious. Humanity's first true strike against the HFY was a success. But Voss knew this was just the beginning. The HFY weren't defeated yet. But for the first time, they weren't the ones chasing. They were the ones running. Harper turned to Voss. "Sir, what now?" Voss stared at the ruined battlefield, at the remains of the empire that had once hunted them. He took a slow breath, then spoke. Now we finish this war." The Revenant's engines roared to life, and humanity's war for survival had just begun.